Good morning. Hello. Happy Saturday, everyone. Sheila Williams here doing another wonderful, I can already tell, a wonderful talk about our series that we're calling Let's Talk. And I am joined by the lovely Denai Navoa of Denai Navoa Intuitive. And I invite Denai because she has wonderful perspectives on everything and very few of her opinions align with mine. So it makes for such a fun, juicy conversation. That's not really true, of course. I love doing these with Denai, and people are giving us the feedback that they love listening. So that's why we're doing it today. And today we are talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart called Living Your Grand Adventure. Because I am living a very different life than I ever would have imagined. And certainly 10 years ago, it would have seemed ridiculous. And 5 years ago, it would have seemed pretty improbable. And yet here we are today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But first, I wanted to let Denai say hello and anything that comes to her mind.
Hi. This is your talk, but I'll have opinions because this is the topic that you are very passionate about and have experience in. And this is a topic that has been poking at me, we'll say, in the past 6 months or so. But it'd be interesting to see. As Sheila still has her adorable pet friend who likes to make his presence known. So every once in a while, she will make sure that he gets his appearance in the show.
Well, I muted right then because I had him outside playing and running in the backyard. He's a Labradoodle puppy, and so running is what he really does best. But now he was having like a 5-minute drink. It felt like it was probably only 30 seconds, but yes. And you can hear I can hear the echoing even though I'm wearing headphones. So I can hear what Denai is hearing, or at least what I imagine. So
yeah.
Yes, it is my topic, and I am excited that this is something that's been coming up for you as well. I'm just checking to see if I'm actually going live. I don't know if I am on my Facebook. I don't see anything about it. So that's kind of fun and curious.
I'll poke around.
Sure, thanks. So we are joined here by Danielle already, dropping comments in the YouTube chat. So hi, Danielle, welcome. And yes, I appreciate you so much. I think we both do. I know that we do. So let's talk about living your grand adventure. And what does that mean? And my very first comment is that it will mean something different for everyone. And that's because we are all so unique. And we continue to change and evolve. And that's what I was meaning when I said, well, years ago, this would have felt ridiculous. So why would I even consider that that's something I could be doing with my life? And so I changed, and what I wanted changed, and what became possible for me changed. And it has become a delicious cycle where it just keeps getting more and better and more and better as I become aware of what is possible. So it has been fun. So to give a little bit of background for people who maybe don't know me, I'm Canadian. I grew up in usually smaller towns, northern Canada, moved a bit further south, but for most people, it's still pretty far north. I had 3 kids. I was a teacher. I had a pretty regular life and what I assumed would be my life. And then as things about that started to shift, evolve, and change, and then eventually, my kids grew up and they left the home. Of course, they're adults now. About 5 years before the last one left, I thought, whoa, wait a second. What is my plan? What am I going to be doing 5 years from now when there's no one who needs a ride somewhere or dinner made? And it was really fun to realize that it was time to make a 5-year plan, to put in some seeds of something that I could, reap later on. And I did do that, and none of those actually happened. It's actually funny to look back now, but the idea was right. And really what that was doing was preparing the ground for the idea that there can be more. And I think that that is the best first step of, do you want more? Do you want something different? And then just letting that be there, not needing to fix it, not needing to make a big drastic change, there's actually nothing broken. That's the fun part, is nothing is wrong that needs to be fixed. You're simply creating some preferences and desires of, ooh. And one of my favorite is curiosity. What else is possible? Like, what else is out there? What would I enjoy? And then stepping back from that and waiting for it to come to you, I think, is one of the best parts about having this mindset of not needing to figure it out, make it happen, blah, blah, blah. Just have an idea and think, yeah, that could be fun. And then just take a step back, go for a walk, go walk a dog.
Yeah. Going with the flow is very important. And one thing that comes to mind as you're talking is the idea that this is about, Sheila talking about living her grand adventure. And people will look at living nomadically as a grand adventure, but living your grand adventure doesn't have to be this. Anything could be your grand adventure, right? It's following what feels good to you, what excites you, what propels you forward. So the idea is that we're using Sheila as an example and using me as an example of kind of in that place. So Sheila's doing what it is that she desires, following that flow. And I'm getting a nudge or an inspiration to follow that flow. But then I also have fears associated with it. So it's not to say that I'm not living my grand adventure. It's just that the part that's starting to poke up and make me curious isn't what I'm doing right now. And that's what propelled the idea of this conversation, is that I've been getting that urge to get rid of my possessions. And now, if anybody knows anything about astrology, I'm a Taurus, and apparently Taurians like their possessions. And I'm not a very materialistic person by that mean. Anytime I read anything about Taurus and they say, like, you really like your possessions, I don't. I mean, I appreciate having them, but the thing that comes to mind for me is they give me a feeling of safety. So letting go of my possessions isn't like, I don't have stuff. It's like, oh, where's my home base? Where's my safety? And I think that applies to anyone, pursuing a grand adventure. So, and I just wanted to note, it's not poking up live on your Facebook, but
yeah, I can see it now.
Oh, it is now? Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I threw your YouTube link underneath if there were issues for anyone. So,
oh, thanks. So let me address what you just spoke about. And just because I can, I'm going to point out that I have been in your apartment helping you to purge a little bit, and you do love your possessions. Like, let's really clear that away and say, yes, you do. And you would like to maybe shift that a little bit. Would that be accurate, Denai?
I love some of my possessions, but I'm also attached to having some of those possessions. Do I love them? I'm attached for a variety of reasons. You should check out, meaning you, the people watching, should check out our clutter conversation, because that is an excellent one. Yeah. And that was the second live that we did, because we started these based on an idea that I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone. And because I wanted to go outside of my comfort zone, which led to this grand adventure, then Sheila and I just started doing these calls together. And the second one was about clutter, because that was the time that we were doing these lovely purging things. And I have attachment to things. I have an attachment to letting go of things that if people gave me a gift and then I'm like, I don't want it, but somebody gave it to me, and what does it say to them?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I have things I love, but things that I also don't love, but feel obligated to keep.
Yes. And that's very fair. So thank you for adding some clarity there. And now I've forgotten what you said the first time, but they were all good points. I did agree with all of them. So that's why I had to poke at that one thing. So it's Danielle has a good question, and I'm going to pop it in right now so that people can see. How did you manage allow your fears to make this leap or jump? So Danielle, what I love about this question is I did not have any fears. So that is speaking to what I said before of creating a preference, letting it go. And whether you want to think of that as just turning away or letting it be released or giving it to the universe or God, whatever feels good for you. I didn't. Whenever I made a step towards, it was absolutely choiceless, natural, common sense. It would have been silly to have done anything else. It felt very easy. And that's why when people say, oh, you must have been so brave to have done that. And I always think, no, it wasn't. And I don't want to discount what their perspective is, because maybe for them it would have some anxiety or fear around it. But the way I did it in such a systematic way, it didn't feel scary. It never felt scary. And that is, I think, a key of when it feels. Now, this is a whole other Go Live conversation. Denai, if you want to take a note of that, of what is the balance between pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and pushing yourself before it's time. Because I have an opinion that you don't need to push yourself too much. And of course, we could probably get 80% of our audience to say, actually, you only grow when you push yourself. And so that, I think that could be a really juicy conversation. But in this instance, I really didn't. I did make decisions that maybe I thought, oh, this or this, and I'm not really sure, so I'm going to take a chance on this one. But it still felt easy coming into coming into those two choices. I was still aligned with them. Neither of them felt really big and scary. Like one wasn't jumping out of the airplane or staying at home and watching a movie on the couch. It was, should I do a pet sit in France or this pet sit in England? So it was a matter of both of these feel good. And now I'm going to lean into whichever one feels a little bit better. So
yeah. I want to comment though, because I have done things feeling fear. And I have literally jumped out of a plane. And I actually feel or felt more fear, and I'll keep it in the present, about letting go of things, whether emotional or mental or physical. I have more fear of that than I do of jumping out of a plane. So the interesting thing is it's all relative. I know I am. But the thing that comes to mind is, this statement, I was on board with it. And at the same time, I have my reservations about it, but feel the fear and do it anyways. I think has a threshold. So there's fear in your body. And I talk about this in the first live. Fear in your body being like, it's absolutely debilitating. Don't do it. Like, that's everything in you saying no. And if it's like a slight fear or nervousness, like I hopped on a live the first time with Sheila and she knew I was nervous, but it wasn't nervousness in a sense that I wasn't safe. It was nervousness as in, this is going outside of my comfort zone. So your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, whatever you want to use, is going to tell you that something doesn't feel okay to do. So don't push it. But, Sheila mentioned the decluttering that we went through in July. And I went through a process where there were certain things that were like, okay, I can get rid of this. And other things that were an absolute hell no. Do not touch that thing and do not make me get rid of it. And eventually it softened because Sheila didn't pressure me. She just said, you don't need this anymore. And I said, yes, I do. Did I need it? No. I just formed an attachment to it because who am I without the belongings I have? Right. And that's an interesting thing, that to come into that realization that I identify in some ways with the things that I have in my life. So feeling the fear isn't necessarily a thing that says don't do it. It's the degree of fear that you feel. And with Danielle's question, how do you manage it or allow? There are a whole bunch of things that you can do, but I think the thing that's most important is to not punish yourself or judge yourself for having that fear, because there's a reason that it's there. And then, I was fearful for like 3 years before I did the skydive. And one day I just said, I don't care anymore. And then I just went and did it. I was still afraid, but nowhere near this like debilitating. It just kind of moved on its own because I became okay with the fact that I was fearful. So if anybody's holding on to something because they're fearful about it, just let go of the fact or let go of the judgment of being fearful about it and just allow it to be that way for now. So,
well, I think that speaks to my point of knowing the timing. Listening to your intuition. Your fear is there to protect you. That is survival 101. And to know that if it feels like not yet or hell no, honor that as best you can. And, again, thank you for popping this up. So Danielle's add-on here is, was there a tagline of, I'm okay if this works out? So yes, whatever you want to call it, whether it's a mantra or a tagline or something that just feels soothing to you, I have absolutely adopted some sayings, such as one that I've always loved is, everything is always working out for me. And I know that everything is always working out for me. And that does become very soothing. And I can look back at the evidence of times when I thought this is not working out for me. And now from this perspective, I can look back and say, oh, thank goodness that happened. So everything really is working out for me. And I can keep reaffirming that to myself. And I'm sure I could come up with more that I could tell you later, but that is one. Releasing the attachment as best you can to, the way you desire it, I think is still my strongest piece of advice. If I were to ever give advice, which I try not to give advice, but it's to know I have created the desire. I do not need to hold on to, what it looks like and when it happens and how all the details unfold. I know what I want. And we use the analogy of ordering the pizza on one of our calls, which I would like to go back and re-listen to it. I was so excited when I had that. That was way back. That wasn't even one of our lives, was it? Of just when you call to order for a pizza, you don't then rush over to the restaurant and get in the kitchen and start slicing things to put on top of your pizza and make it. You know that it's done. You get out some plates if you want, you queue up a movie and you get the couch all settled and cozy so that as soon as the pizza comes in the door, you're ready to go and have a nice evening. But you just let it go. You know it's happening and you know it's going to show up in a timely way. But so there is no need to keep going back. So for what I have been doing, it's, I know a general idea of what I want, but I don't make super specifics about it. And once I create the desire for it, then I let it go. I have a talk with a friend, or I do go for a walk or whatever. I go to sleep. It doesn't have to be, okay, now that I've decided that I need to have this type of experience, I better get on the computer and start mapping out my itinerary. I really don't do that. And whenever I have thought I should, that whole trip has not worked out. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's interesting things. So two things coming to mind is one of the mantras that you use that really doesn't have to do with letting go of fear, but also more about shifting your focus and welcoming the magic that's there for you today, right? And, I've had a statement come to mind, but I think I really like yours. If I can remember it, I don't think I can, but show me the magic that's waiting for me today, or something along those lines. I don't remember what it is, but you say it, it sounds brilliant. I obviously don't. I use a phrase of something like, I know there's magic for me today. I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. So that pops up for me. But I laugh about, because when you did this was in January, when you did this workshop, and it's on her YouTube, they're free if anybody wants to check it out. And we can add a link to it in the notes. But I laughed about the pizza delivery thing because I heard her say this, and my thought is, I ordered food just the other night. On Thursday, I ordered food, and the normal sort of approach is like, you ordered the food and then you wait for it. And that's sometimes what I do. But this time I was waiting for it. And then at one point I was like, it's been 45 minutes. And then I was like, maybe it's been an hour. I don't remember when I ordered it. I know that I had messaged Sheila to tell her that I was getting food. And then I suddenly thought, maybe they just left it downstairs. Maybe they didn't tell me that it was here. Maybe that, So I went downstairs. I immediately started to doubt that food was going to come and that somehow somebody was going to steal it, that they weren't going to deliver it. And this is the thought I have when I say, okay, I have this desire, and then like, let it go. And I'm like, what if it doesn't show? What if somebody else grabs it? So it shows that sometimes your mind just plays these games. So what happened was I went downstairs, stood there for a bit, and went, nobody's calling. And then I went up and I tried to let go. And then they called and said, we're here. Like we're about to deliver it. And I was like, I went through so much grief because I couldn't trust the process of it. You know, I like the delivery systems that have like a tracker that says it's around the corner, and I'm like, perfect.
Oh, I love it. So it's really forcing you to trust it. Like until you can trust it, you don't even get to have that tracker.
Nope. So, and I know I'm not alone in this, but it's absolutely ridiculous because when I was younger, as a kid, we would order pizza and I would be like, cool. And I'd run off and do whatever, just knowing that the pizza was coming. And suddenly anxiety entered my life. And then everything becomes this sort of, oh, is it coming? Is it really actually coming? And that's what I think people do with their day-to-day stuff. And it's like, it is coming, but let that shit go so that
Pretty
it
much. In a nutshell. So even if this goes for an hour, the only thing you needed to know was actually, at 21 minutes and about 30 seconds was just, yes, everything you want is happening. Just let that shit go of waiting and wondering and needing to figure it out and double check and triple check and quadruple check and like, nope, you're good.
So, yeah. So what I want to hear from you, given that, this is about your grand adventure, and is like, what inspired it to start? Like, how did you come across this pet sit sort of experience? And you could talk about whatever services and stuff that you use, but how did it come together?
How did it come together? Keeping it the shorter story, I did go through all of the steps of moving out most of my possessions, let's say 80%, because I had decided to move overseas to England to have a relationship there. So that was a great motivator, obviously. And it was perfect for me because it gave me the kick in the butt I needed. So when I started that 5-year plan, I did start to purge and go through some things, but I was not very effective at it. I just kept moving bins and boxes. And then when I did another move, probably about 2 years before, maybe 3 years before, I finally went through a lot of those bins with papers where you feel like you have to go through every single piece of paper. And it turns out, oh yeah, this was what I wrote in university. And this is what I wrote in grade 3. And why have I been moving this for, 20 odd years? And I purged that. But I still had a lot because I was still living in homes with basements. And as soon as you put things away, you never think about them. And so when I made the move to go to England, it was okay, no one wants to store this for me if I want to keep some of it. And I don't want to pay for storage. So it is time. And that it really helped, obviously. So not everybody has that. But it was that time that let me let go of furniture and old knickknacks or things that were broken or things that I bought, party light candle holders that I had bought 30 years before and I never used them. They were sitting in a basement, like goodbye. So I had the garage sale that you kind of feel like you're supposed to have because you don't just give everything away. You remember what you paid for it, darn it. You can't just give it away. And I did it. The best thing I could have ever done for myself was arrange for the charity pickup to come right out, like the day after the garage sale. So anything that didn't go, I just loaded it in the truck with the guy and I said goodbye. And it was hard to put it in the truck. And it felt like the biggest weight in the world was off my shoulders as he drove away, because there were things that I had legitimately been moving and putting in closets that I didn't want anymore. They did feel like a massive weight for me, but I remembered who gave it to me, or I remembered how much I paid for it, or the kids made that when they were little. It's their little handprint, or I remember when they drew that picture and there were so many heartstrings attached. And I took a picture of all the artwork and the little pottery things and I threw them in the garbage. The first one was hard. And after that, it got easier and easier because they didn't want them. And I was legitimately just like putting them in a box and moving them every time I shifted. So that helped. Having friends or family who could help me go through that also helped because it wasn't my strength when I started. And so now I've got about 80% done and I move. So when that relationship ended and I moved back to Canada, now I don't have really a home base and I don't have all my stuff. Like I don't have my furniture. I sold my bed. And I thought, well, what do I want? Because I don't want to just move back here. It was always the plan to not move back there. And so I had multiple people all about the same time, ooh, what a coincidence, tell me about a particular house sitting site. And so I joined it because I thought, well, why not? Maybe I get to use it once in a while and it gives me a free place to stay when I travel. And I don't know what any of this is going to look like, but I know it's an option. And so I did 2 sits in Canada, and I had made the decision as that was evolving that I wanted to go back overseas, and that I actually I committed to 6 months overseas because as a Canadian, I could be out of the country for, 6 months less a day or whatever the regulations are. So I booked flights for that and I didn't know where I was going to be. And I thought, I'll figure it out. And I started doing the pet sits. That was a very long, short version, but there you go.
Yeah, well, it is a very long, short version, and I remember some of the story, and then I had forgotten aspects of it. But for those interested in the site that she uses, or what is it called? I know the name of it, but I'm trying to think of like the overall header of what it's called. Service?
Yeah.
The service. Thank you.
Service.
The facilitator. I don't know why this matters.
I'm not even sure what you're getting at, but there are many sites available. And if you Google it, if this is the kind of thing that appeals to you, you can Google it. You can get a big list load. Yeah. I chose one called Trusted House Sitters because I knew so many people who were members and had positive experiences.
Yeah.
So I think it's an amazing site because what it is I've always joked it's the mix between a dating site and Airbnb, because you make a profile for yourself, showing your best qualities. And then once that's in there and approved, you can just go on the site and type in the name of a town or a state or a country and put in the dates that you want and what kind of animals do you want to look for. And you just click search and there's the whole list. And it's a really great idea because it is an exchange. This is a non-paying site in terms of I don't get paid to stay and I don't pay for the ability to stay. But oh my gosh, can we talk about some of the homes that I have stayed in?
Oh, they're incredible.
I think one of the best, again, the list of free place to stay while traveling. And anyone who's traveled knows how good it feels to cook your own meal or to do a load of laundry or just to chill in your own space. So by staying in someone's home, you have that as opposed to a hotel or a hostel or staying with friends. So that I've always loved. And it has been amazing to stay in beautiful homes across Canada, across Europe, England, and create preferences for myself of, ooh, I love this aspect, or, oh, I'm so glad I've stayed here because now I know I would never do that. Whatever it is. Like here we have this kind of fun faux background and we could just say, oh, this is our living room. And isn't it nice, to have those big cozy couches and have the grand piano, but I am actually in people's homes that kind of look like this.
Yeah.
And this was never part of my reality before. So it's fun just to try that on and get a sense of, I love the high ceilings, or I love this type of view, or, oh, I would never live at the base of a mountain again. At the time, I thought, that's so cool. I could just walk out the door and go on the hiking trails. There was never any sun past about 4 o'clock in the afternoon because it was on the east side of the mountain. And it felt dark and like horrible. It felt like I was in a cave. I would literally cross the street to find the sunshine. it was a really funny experience that it never would have occurred to me until I had lived it.
Well, and the way you describe it is like it totally is dating. It's like testing the waters.
Yeah.
You're like dating these experiences and finding your preferences based on your ideal experiences. That's what people are doing when they're looking for partnership or even friendship or business partners or any one of those capacities. You're going out through your life and essentially dating experiences. So that's a whole other life, but that's kind of popping up now. Anyway, I wanted to add very quickly that this is a conversation that we are having for fun, and Sheila does have a code that if anybody's curious that they can use as a discount for the membership, and we'll put it in the description for the links. But you get apparently a substantial because of the whole what's it called?
Black Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not, I like possessions, but I don't care about shopping and stuff. So that's very, very interesting. But I want to make clear, we're not selling anything. Like, this is just us talking about stuff. The site itself has no idea that we're doing this. It's just, I found it exciting to talk about it because I've been feeling a nudge to do it, but I don't know that this is the approach that I'd want to take. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear, Sheila's experience in this and how it evolved, because I'm noticing, the similarity and like the feeling or the propelling and the hesitation and then the release, and it's really interesting to kind of see how that evolves. So what other things, gorgeous houses. I've seen some of these houses. I've been in some of these houses and I've just been like, holy shit, like, it's incredible. Like, living the great life where you're like, I don't have the responsibilities of the home. I don't have to pay the mortgage. I don't have to deal with any of the repairs. I can come and live the good life for X amount of time. And some of the sits you've done have been weeks long.
Yep. Probably the longest has been 5 weeks. Most are about 10 days or so when people take, a week off and tack on the weekends. But it is nice to have longer ones so that you can create your routine. And there are always opportunities to have sits without animals. Most of the ones on this site do tend to have animals, and I enjoy that. I like having some structure, some routine, the companionship. Having the cats are obviously a bit easier than dogs, because a dog, I believe you really need to take the responsibility to give the dog exercise and attention that they desire, and because they need it, they really do. And the cats are a little bit easier, and I like to snuggle with cats. I haven't had any other pets, although there's certainly options. But it's open. Like, I am open. I'm open to the bunnies and the reptiles or whatever they are. The only thing I don't have on my profile are horses. I could probably figure out chickens. But yes. And I know people on the site who have experience with horses, and they've loved it because they've traveled through England, because a lot of people who live on acreages will have, some horse or chickens or goats or whatever it is. And so that could be fun. But again, you want to know that you can do a good job. My ethic demands that I do a lot. And sometimes I think maybe I do too much. Because I really do create my entire schedule around what the pet needs. And there are sometimes I've equated it to babysitting. When you're looking after someone else's child, you're like on the floor playing the Legos and you're cutting everything into cute little shapes for their sandwiches. But when it's your kids, it's like, okay, go play. I'm making dinner. So for other people's pets, I think I sometimes give a lot more than maybe they even need or are used to. I think sometimes it's like, whoa, really? I could have it. Really, you're going to do that? Because my owner just lets me out in the backyard. You're going to come out and play. So there's maybe a learning for me there. But I have this belief that you do need to do the absolute best job, and you do need to leave the house in absolutely pristine condition. And sometimes maybe that is a little ridiculous. So I can work on that. No. But I do think it's a matter of trust, right? Like, someone has actually invited you into their home, and they're trusting that you're not having parties or abusing it or getting up the crystal and smashing on the floor or whatever it is. So I feel like you really, as someone who used to own home, like, I would want someone to treat my home with the utmost respect. And then when you add a pet in there, Like, let's be honest, a lot of people love their pets more than their children. So you really do want to know that you're doing right by them. So
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that comes to mind with you is that you have a passion for this.
mhm.
So it's not like you're doing it out of obligation. You just really love doing this. So you will go above and beyond. And I've seen some of the things that you do and hear about it. And I think it's fantastic. And one of the things that works in your benefit is you are somehow an animal whisperer in some capacity, because I see them like flock around you even when they're not the ones that you're pet sitting. Like you'll be
Yeah.
walking somewhere and they're like coming to you because they're like, I know this lady, she's one of us. Like
Yeah.
but there was a pet sit that we were there together, and the dog is very much in love with you, very obsessed with you. And I thought, I'll do you a favor and I'll take the dog for a walk. But the dog was refusing. He would not. He would look for her. We even went where like she walked part of the way and then we went a different way, and he just kept going back to where she was. There was no walking him without her. And I went, I can't. Like, so you just have like a special touch to you and such like that. There's a couple of questions. I don't know which ones you want to highlight on there to
Just grab one.
all right, I'll grab that one.
So Danielle, I do actually. I know some people who, when I tell them what I do, they just look at me like I'm nuts and say, I would never pet sit without getting paid. Like that's at least $40, $50 a night, no matter what, per animal type thing. And that's okay. And that, I welcome money from all sources. And if people offer to pay me, which one family did, it was their first time on the site and they'd always paid a pet sitter before. And they suggested a rate. I said, if that feels good for you, but I'm here because it is an exchange, and the exchange feels very good for me. It's an energetic exchange. I have the benefit of a safe home with privacy. And again, as we've talked about, the luxury of cooking my own meals and having a bath or having, just having a place to do my laundry. Those are all very valuable to me, and I appreciate the opportunity. So for me, that is great. That might change. But for now, it does feel good. And because it gives me so many options, it allows me to take leaps and say, ooh, would Portugal feel good? Ooh, would France feel good? Let me check out what kind of pet sits are there. It gives me some focus of where to look in the world too. So it is, I think, a great experience, but like everything, I'm sure it will evolve. It is nice to find, as I said, longer pet sits because you do have that stability and you can get to know the neighborhood and maybe go out and about, go to yoga or whatever you want. I had a great one that was 5 weeks in England, and I'd actually been there for a weekend before, and then they asked me to come back. And that was a lot of fun because I got to know people. I went visiting. There was a leisure center nearby, and I got to participate in some of the things there. So again, all of that is to my benefit. And so to me, that more than makes up for the fact that someone's not paying me some kind of per diem. So that's a lot to me. And you added an extra question about have I come across hidden cameras? Honestly, I always assume that if people can, they will. It is against the rules of the site. The guidelines say you promise that you will not have any surveillance. But you know what? I don't do anything that people can't see, but I also maybe don't walk around naked either, just in case. I figure if you're watching, you can see whatever it is I'm doing. But yeah, it's always in the back of my mind, which is maybe something that I don't like, because I do know, for instance, Denai has an apartment that she knows she has complete privacy. She's up high, no one's looking in her windows. She can, it doesn't matter if she runs out to get something or is brushing her teeth after a shower. She's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go check my message. Like, okay, that gets to be a sense of security that you really have 100% privacy. On the other hand, I had 3 kids. When did I ever have privacy? So it's not as if I really had to change any habits. by the time they got older, the bathroom door was allowed to stay closed and I could have a bath. But I mean, there was never walking around the house naked anyway. And I mean, what a funny example, but it's not that I'm always wanting to do that. But I have an awareness now and I think, oh, I'm not going to, just in case. Although, yeah, if they're watching, let them see what they want to see.
That's fair. I wanted to go back to a comment that I had missed on our way about fear. And Alyssa was talking about how she has felt sensations in her body of fear while simultaneously having a knowing that said something different. So noticing what happens after experiencing the fear, you get a great sense of data. So this is what I was referring to when I was talking about the idea that, you know, Sheila said she had no fear when she had just made the step to go and do that thing. Whereas like when I was purging or decluttering or any of that stuff, I had fears, I had worries and concerns, but at the same time, I knew this was going to be for my benefit. So it's an interesting sort of push-pull kind of experience that happens when you have these moments. So it's I think valuable to become tuned in to how you respond to things and understanding what that means and whether that's like a hell no, a hell yes, or it's possible, maybe, but maybe I should wait and feel into it a little more, or get a sense of allowing the feeling to kind of move through me. So your thoughts, Sheila?
Well, I love the perspective that it can be a hell no, a hell yes, or a not yet. Because sometimes I think we do try to make it too black and white. I know at times I've said, well, if it's not a hell yes immediately, then it's a hell no. But sometimes that doesn't land. And I do get caught in the middle ground of trying to figure it out. And that's where I do keep wanting to, okay, take a step back. And unless this has to be done right now, the house is burning down and I'm trying to decide to go out or not, although let's be honest, that would be a hell yes. Maybe this is just not yet. And I can take a step back. And in fact, I've been trying to make some decisions this week and people are waiting for answers. And I keep thinking, I should answer them. I need to get back to them, and putting it off because I don't have an answer yet. It is not clear. So part of me could say, well, then it's obviously not a hell yes. Therefore, it's a no. And I could just put it like, okay, it's a no. And I might do that later on today. But there is part of me that keeps thinking, I think it's a not yet, because there are aspects that feel good for me. And there are aspects that I'm just not sure. It's not that it feels bad. It's just, I'm not sure. And I like having it be closer to that choiceless aspect where I'm not wiffle waffling or back and forthing, as some people have talked about that. Like I am an expert at back and forthing. Because there could be this and then there could be that. Well, there could be this and then there could be that. And I think that's from years of practicing making a pro and con list. And to me, that was the logical way to figure things out, is make the pro and con list and feel into each one and make them each real. Well, now in this way that I live, where I imagine versioning and knowing that feeling into each of those pros and cons was basically merging with the version that loved this aspect and then merging with the version that hates that aspect. It's exhausting to say one thing and it's not helpful to say another.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try to just back off again. Squirrel.
Well,
something else.
You know, when it's a not yet and you distract yourself, that's allowing your mind to take a break from mulling over the pros and cons, or like, what if this happens or what if that happens? And yes, Sheila is very back and forthy. It's a term that we created early on in our conversations. But the thing that comes to mind when we talk about this is a book that I'm listening to about this idea of human design and how we have certain response patterns. And this whole not yet fits with your type. You're not aware of this, but it very much fits with your type. So never, ever rush into a decision. And I mean, like, these sort of things, whether they're the conversations with us and listening to what we have to say, input from your friends, these other tools, astrology, whatever it may be, they're tools. And they're there if they feel good and they provide you with a relief or a sense of insight that feels aligned or helpful for you, then great. But nobody needs a particular tool in order to have a successful life, I think is what's important. But based on your response pattern, you're supposed to wait until it feels essentially like a yes, a hell yes, I'm excited for this. And we have the same response pattern in that sense, where I say yes to things even if I don't want to. And that creates this energy in me. And this should be like a whole other conversation that I'm sure that we will play into. But this back and forthiness is very much in relation to that response that you have to saying, does this light me up? Does this excite me? And if it does, have at her, go play, have fun. But if there's something holding you back, there's a reason that it's holding you back. And not to rush into it, because I think some of us will rush into things out of obligation or FOMO. That's another one we've been planning to do for a while, is FOMO.
Writing it down.
So like there's endless opportunities for us that we're going to have an opinion at least about everything. And that's what these conversations are. We're sharing our opinions. And whatever works for us or hasn't worked for us in life. And because Sheila and I have some similar but different experiences, we get to learn off of each other, but we also get to annoy the hell out of each other too. And that
I want to pop Alyssa's comment up here that there's never any rush, no matter what, like ever. Mic drop. Yeah. And how much fun to, just as you were speaking about human design, and then you've mentioned astrology twice, there is that, spiritual / woo-woo side of it. And if you go to the other side where other people have lived, personality profiling, Myers-Briggs. I mean, anyone who's ever either been hired for a job or worked in HR knows that the smart thing to do these days is any candidate who's getting close to hiring, you do the personality profiling on them so that you understand maybe how they may learn better or how they may want to be rewarded best. Like that's what's considered a good employer these days, who makes sure to know their employees kind of from that inside out part. And I've done multiple of those. And I remember one of them absolutely, profiled me as, whenever I say profile, I'm like serial killer profiling. It's like, okay, not that. Not
You're
that.
into those crime shows too much.
Not
then.
that. But everybody knows what I'm talking about, because there are all of these, answer these 80 questions, even though they all sound confusing and kind of alike, and there's a whole bunch of double negatives to try to trip you up. And then they spit out the answer of, oh, you're an ENTJ or whatever. But I remember one of them that pointed out, like, you are the type that will always say, wait, 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 wait. And then some other types were like, go, even though we don't have a plan. Like, okay, here's an idea, just go. It'll the details will fall into place. And then someone like me would be like, what? Like, I'm the one who's supposed to fill out all those details that I don't know what we're doing. And it was, honestly, I felt really judged of, well, you will never be the visionary. You will never actually amount to anything because you don't ever know how to go. All you know how to do is wait. And at the time, it just, okay, well, it is what it is, but you still want this shit done. So you are going to have to give me something to work on so that I can fill in those details for you. But now we can pull it all back to take this perspective of knowing, yes, I do often wait. And it's not because I can't make a decision. It's because I am waiting for it to feel better for me, because I know when I go, then it just like rolls out like a red carpet. And so when I decide on the location and the date, and I choose right then to go look for a flight, it's kick-ass prices. It's the best connections. It's awesome experiences. It's rendezvousing with the people who are going to make everything easy and delightful for me. And that's the evidence that I keep showing myself. So in these old days, it's like, okay, apparently I'm a stick in the mud and I don't know how to do anything, feeling judged. Oh, here's something that's wrong with me that I should fix. Now I have so much peace and relief. And, Danielle says here that not yet, there's so much relief. You talked about that. Like, there is relief to just know it's just not the right time. It's like, I can do all the work to put a cake or some bread in the oven. But as soon as I pop it in, I don't want to just pop it right out again before it's even had time to cook. I do want to wait until the right moment of when I take it out, then it's something delicious that I can enjoy.
The sweet spot, yeah. And you talk about these personality questionnaires, these surveys, these profiles, the typology of things, very, very popular in psychology. And it's like, that's my training. That's what I spent years learning, was how to develop and design questionnaires and studies and to get at these questions. So I do enjoy when I see them online and then I look at them and see all the flaws in them. But that's the interesting thing, is with anything that's talked about, with any of the stuff we talk about, there's discernment. And that's absolutely crucial in anything you're moving through in life. You know, we're talking about Sheila's grand adventure in moving into something that you found inspiring, you know, that you were like, this is a hell yes for me. I might have some fears or reservations around it, but it's a hell yes. And whatever somebody else's grand adventure is up to their own discernment, their own level of excitement. You know, what fits for me isn't going to fit for somebody else, and it may not feel aligned to the person. But having this knowing that you get to choose, you know, you get to choose what feels good for you, what feels aligned for you. We wanted to share just the different sort of experiences that are possible for you, when, especially now that I'm thinking about not really wanting to be in one place anymore. And it's hilarious to me because I spent my life moving, and I said to myself very firmly, the second I don't have to move, I'm never moving again. Because I would hear about these people living in houses for 20 years. I'm like, that sounds like a dream, because all I kept doing was moving. And it drove me nuts because I didn't feel like I had stable ground. And now I'm like, get me out of here.
Well, again, that brings us full circle to where we started, which is we are always evolving and shifting. And so when we make a decision, it feels better right now to make that decision. And we get to change our mind, to acknowledge the fact that we are different and the world is different. Everything is different. And so I think, again, to keep giving yourself the ease and grace to shift and change. It's like if you're on the ocean, you're never in one spot. You're always bobbing up and down and going side to side. And you still know maybe that you're going forward, but it isn't a straight path. And you do get to have those shifts. And so thank you for bringing us back again, because the whole point of this was for people to just notice. I use that word a lot, I know, and I don't think I've used it at all today, so I've got to drop it in there. Like, just notice for yourself, is there anything that might feel better? And you don't have to be unhappy with where you are at, but you could just notice, actually, now that I know it's possible, it might be nice to travel and have somewhere to chill out. Or now that I know it's possible, I might like to change careers. I might like to explore other options. I might like to try new relationships. I might like to try, becoming more involved in my community. Like, you get to decide of where, here I am in this container. And now that I have an awareness that I'm allowed to think outside this container and feel outside this container, what feels like it might be a fun addition to my experience? Because it can be that simple, because so many people never look outside the container. It's just, here's my routine. This is what I do. This is what responsible people do. This is what normal people do. This is what people like me do. And they never actually contemplate that there could be something different. And I think that is the best question to ask yourself. And that is how that 5-year plan started of, oh, wait a second. My last child is going to be out of the house and I will be an empty nester in 5 years. Do I want something different? That was a hell yes. I had no clue what, but I knew that I wanted to be open to noticing what around me felt interesting or exciting or like a breadcrumb trail to follow. And I did take some courses, and I imagined maybe going to get my master's. I took a master gardening course. There were things that I thought, okay, I have an interest in that. Maybe I will explore that. I had all kinds of great business ideas I just let them be. And I followed and explored as it felt easy, but I didn't feel the need to push it. I didn't think, of course, I want something different and quit my job and, walk away from my home and take my one last kid and jump on a plane. I, within a safe and stable type of container environment, I allowed it to slowly expand and just have questions pop up. And for anyone who has that experience of, ooh, it might feel good to travel. I have been wanting to do that. And one of the reasons I haven't is it feels too expensive, with hotels and all the rest and the food. This is one option, accessing a site like I'm using. It doesn't have to be a lifestyle. It can legitimately be a weekend away. You might decide, oh, I could go away for just a weekend, or maybe I go away for a week, and then for the weekend before or after, I go to that home and I get to play with the animal, and I get to do my laundry, and I get to cook some meals or have some, some comfort of just sitting on the couch and watching a show. So it does not have to be what I've created it, but it can be really fun to incorporate it to what feels good for you.
Yeah, it's true. There's no one way to do any of things. So that's it. There's more than one way to do it. So follow what feels exciting to you. Follow your excitement. Follow your bliss. Have fun.
Number one.
Yeah, totally. So.
Well, thanks, Denai. I feel like we kind of cheated people because I only picked on one tiny little thing that you said. There wasn't a lot of
other conversations where you can do it.
we made a big list. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be something that we can bicker about on a next one. So
tune in for just some reminders. We're going to throw some other things in the show notes where we're excited that we have some free upcoming events. We'll throw in the link for the discount to Trusted House Sitters if you're curious. Explore things, check things out, and follow what feels really good for you. And what a beautiful comment, Alyssa. Thank you so much.
How could I disagree with her? She is a wisdom gold mine. I agree.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to bank that. It's like screenshot, mental picture for those who like Friends. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm going to bank that. Oh yeah, Sheila's a freaking rock star.
Thanks, Alyssa.
So yeah, great conversation. I mean, when we do these lives, we always have the intention of not going too long, but it just flows. And I don't care. I'm like, have fun. Let's play. Time doesn't exist when I'm having fun. So check out our previous live.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. I love that live about time. That was a really good one. So yes, I encourage anyone who has watched anything to poke around and see what other topics, because as you've seen from this one, we go all over the place. So even if you think, oh, I'm not interested in anxiety, no, go watch that one. That was so good. And although, to be fair, I did tread very lightly because I didn't want to create anxiety for anyone watching that. And you offered a lot of your great perspective as someone who has had that in their life.
So yeah, and
we should do another one about that.
Yeah, no, go check it out. And then there's obviously updates throughout the video and my experience in that for the people who are interested in hearing about that journey. But if you want to hear more about these things, like get on our YouTube channels and subscribe. And, you have to click the bell though, because apparently if you don't click the bell to say like all of them, then it doesn't tell you all of them. I don't know. We're new to this. It's a lot of fun, but we love having these conversations. And if you feel compelled to share with anyone, share away. We just have a blast sharing our experiences, and we love the conversation that ensues on these calls. This might be the record for our live, and it was all about Sheila. So obviously it, is worthy of the prize.
Well, it showed that I wasn't as worried about the time because I was talking and sharing about things. And can we give kudos to Ollie, who has just been sitting on my feet this whole time, because we were letting him be kind of our timer keeper of when he needed to get up, we were done. And he has just been chilling and keeping my feet really warm. So
Yeah.
I do
So
appreciate that.
the universe gave him a sleeping pill.
Well, the sleeping pill was playing in the backyard ahead of time.
Yeah.
So yes, that was very effective. So that
Yeah.
was a lot of
No,
fun
that's
for me
great.
too.
I had that thought partway through. I was like, did he like just fall asleep? Because it's perfect.
Yeah,
So,
he's been just chilling. And as soon as I get up, I'm sure he'll say, "Oh, good, time to get up." So it worked perfectly.
well, it's
All
been a
right.
pleasure. Thank you, Sheila, and thank you to those who have joined the call.
Thanks. Yeah, awesome. We'll see y'all another time. Have a great weekend. And hey, 1 month till Christmas. There's a whole live there too. Stress or good news.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
All right.
true story.
Love to everyone.
Bye. Bye.